Capcom just made one of the most bewildering statements I've literally ever seen. If you haven't been able to keep up with the news, Capcom released a very lengthy video talking about the next generation of the RE engine. You'd think I'd be pretty excited about this, but there was one thing in there that made me very concerned. Now this video, it's not really for Capcom customers or consumers, it's actually a sales pitch for the rest of the industry. And apparently, this new engine is going to be called the REX engine. Rex? RE10? Are we going to get a version called RE Triple X? That's my golden idea. You can have it, Capcom. Dog, they actually would do that though. I mean, let's not even pretend. But Capcom is going big with this new engine. They're finally going to localize all of their tools and make the RE engine available to all. That means not only will there be Unreal or Unity and I guess technically CryEngine, there will now be REX as a potential option for aspiring game developers who want all of the engine work done for them. Now, this isn't what I'm worried about. This is just a flat out positive change. I mean, more options are always better. And I think the RE engine right now, let alone this improved next generation version, honestly should have been licensed to the market to begin with. I mean, it's an amazing piece of technology. What concerns me is Capcom had a slide in this presentation talking about something that caught the eyes of myself and other creators I've seen on this platform. A slide that stated that modding of REX games will be considered cheating. No exceptions. REX will seemingly have some sort of anti-cheat with it, and based off of what we just read, it will probably be the very aggressive kind. The true extent of what cheating will result in, I don't think Capcom ever really said anything about that. I would guess an online ban, hopefully something similar to Elden Ring. Hopefully just a separate matchmaking pool that pairs cheaters with other cheaters. Maybe even a separate pool on top of that just for people who make changes to the archived packages, aka your standard Capcom modder. What we do know for sure is that modification of any kind will trigger this cheating flag. And not even this is what concerns me though. I love modding my RE engine games. I do it on the regular. My YouTube channel has a secondary focus of the PC experience of enjoying Capcom games, and naturally this extends to mods for these games. Not only are there people like me, I personally know people who have bought PC copies of Capcom games they already owned just to mod them. But you know what? If Capcom has a valid reason, I'll get behind it. It'll suck quite a lot, but I'd understand. What's nice is Capcom did explain why they're making this change. So does Capcom have a good reason for doing this? No. Of course not. This is the company selling you a fucking Ninja Turtle for $20. This reason is that these mods harm their reputation. I'm not even shitting you. They literally say that in the slide. And this is what concerns me. First of all, Capcom cares about their reputation. Second of all, this is complete nonsense because Capcom is making the video game, not the mods for said video game. I'm sure you've come to that conclusion yourself too. So you might be asking, Rainin, how on this planet is modding a video game impacting Capcom's reputation? There's really only one logical explanation for this, and I think it might actually lie with Street Fighter 6. By complete coincidence, I was already making a video about Capcom and the perverted nature of their company and their fan base. Here's a clip from that video actually. And if you couldn't guess, that thing all of us certified Capcom gamers have in common, the thing that we all like, Chun-Li nude mod. And I'm even more motivated to make that video given this news, as you'll see why in a bit. But some time ago, there was a clip spread around Twitter of an online tournament for Street Fighter 6. This was a tournament being played on the PC version of the game. The guy hosting the tournament apparently had a Chun-Li nude mod that they forgot to turn off. And yes, this mod was shown in its full glory on live stream. It's actually one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Of all the games you mod, it's an esport like Street Fighter 6. That and you live stream a tournament and never bothered to crack open Fluffy Manager beforehand. Homie's really out here playing ranked one-handed apparently. But more importantly, because it was so funny, this clip spread like wildfire, and I imagine Capcom saw this. Now, Maximilian Dude, shout out to him, he seems to think that this presentation slide is the first time Capcom has officially acknowledged the existence of these nude mods. I actually think the first warning shot was when Capcom updated their community guidelines in 2021. On a personal note, I am not a fan of the Capcom community guidelines. They are unnecessarily strict, which is sort of the reason why I'm concerned about this anti-cheat. I'm worried once again that this anti-cheat will take things too far because that's something Capcom has already proven to do. But they state outright in these guidelines that if they see mods of the inappropriate persuasion, they reserve the right to take them down. I always thought this was a silly little scare tactic, but now we'll be seeing the policy expanded upon once REX starts being utilized. Not only will Capcom be taking these mods down when they they find them, they'll be outright preventing you from modding anything into the game, because apparently that's how little they trust their community. At least that's what it looks like on the surface. I think this situation is a tiny bit more nuanced than we all think it is. I believe everyone I've seen talk about this has been coming from the wrong angle. This even includes myself. When I gave my first take on all of this news on my live stream, I had a similar perspective. Everyone's coming from the angle of Capcom trying to get away from the horny stereotype that they've had for decades. But after thinking about it, I just don't think that's the whole picture. I don't think Capcom up and decided they were a prude company. That's assuming the Chunners incident even is the real catalyst for this, which, by the way, that's not fact. That is an assumption, just a very plausible assumption. But here's where I think we're all off. Capcom was always horny. I mean, they still are. This is the company that had an entire Resident Evil game that forced you to look up a college girl's skirt. This is the company that thought it would be really funny if a chick with huge tits possessed an 8-year-old and was forced to wear her tiny outfit. To this day, Capcom is still horny. That was actually the entire point of the video I was making. There's almost nudity in DMC5. Just this year, Ada Wong doesn't wear a sexy shongasm anymore, but a tight wool sweater that shows off her stomach muscles and her breasts. Let's not even get into what half the Street Fighter 6 roster is wearing. Capcom isn't doing this because they've suddenly decided they're prude now. They were never prude. They aren't prude. I think they're doing this as some subtle damage control. While most people laughed at the absurdity of a competitive player playing their prime game at a high level with a nude mod overlaid on top of them, Capcom must have seen some of the people who said, "You shouldn't be able to mod the game in the first place because it's an esport and people can mod in unfair advantages for the esport." And I think this is what Capcom is concerned about. Your fan base being horny as shit is embarrassing, sure, but that's something every game company has had to deal with. The hypothetical I gave on stream to illustrate this is if CD Projekt Red had a problem with people making nude mods for Cyberpunk or The Witcher. You know, the guys who already have nudity in their shit to begin with. It sums up what Capcom is doing perfectly. It points out just how ridiculous this situation is. It makes the situation look so ridiculous that it's actually what made me consider that this actually goes beyond the Chun-Li mod in the first place. It just can't be as simple as Capcom worrying about people thinking they're horny, because people already were for literal decades. But here's the part that's new to them. They're selling one of the biggest competitive fighting games in the world, one that is so popular it sold millions of copies right at launch. They made this massively popular online multiplayer service and it didn't have this level of anti-cheat in the first place. Remember what I said earlier, Capcom is trying to license this new engine out to people, and a question potential suitors might have is whether this engine is safe from tampering or not. Not every company is going to invest in this engine with the intention of making survival horror games or action games. They probably have competitive multiplayer games in mind too. And from this perspective, everything makes sense. Capcom isn't worried about the Chun-Li nude mod. I mean, they're probably thankful that's all it was. They're worried about the slippery slope. The question of how are you going to keep people from cheating in my next video game? The Chun-Ing was just the invention of the question. And this was Capcom's answer. They're going to outright block modification of any kind. The nice thing about doing it this way is the likelihood of Capcom making an online-only game is actually very slim, especially after the poor performance that Exoprimal had in the market. There are so few RE Engine games that require an internet connection to be played beyond RENet and even Capcom ID. Once you have those linked, you can play offline all you like. And even then, you can't really be banned from a single-player game. I mean, that would just be absurd. So it's safe to say that all of the major RE games, whatever future DMC games, maybe even future Monster Hunter titles, you'll still be able to play them with mods, even if you gotta do it offline. Not only that, but I can see the modding scene taking the Elden Ring approach. That being having a separate executable of the game that launches with this anti-cheat disabled, and a completely separate custom online infrastructure that won't interfere with the existing vanilla one. The answer to no modding in the REX engine might just be to mod it even more. But you know what would be even better? If Capcom just included that feature to begin with, which is where I want to make a pitch to Capcom if they even see this. Fellas, when I launch these new REX games on Steam, this is what I want to see. This dialogue box right here. Capcom, why don't you beat us modders to the punch and give us the option to turn off anti-cheat built right in, and then simply don't queue the people with anti-cheat turned off in the game's matchmaking system, and then give third-party developers the ability to customize their anti-cheat how they like it. it. Then you can have the best of both worlds. You can keep your active modding scene going, the scene that's buying extra copies of your games and motivating other people to buy your games too. But you can also license your fancy game engine to others in the industry without having to worry about anything. I mean, at the end of the day, we're gonna have to wait for an actual REX game to come out before we really get a good idea of what modding it will look like. But while I am very concerned, I hold a lot of hope that maybe it actually won't be as bad as I initially thought. The possibility is very much there that we'll all just look back at this and laugh at how big a deal we thought this would be. Or we'll look back kicking ourselves for not seeing this coming from a mile away. It's your play, Capcom. You're the big dog who can change things for the better or the worse. So I really do hope you make the right choice here. By the way, if you're new here and you're looking for another analytical piece to watch, may I suggest you check out my Resident Evil 1 versus RE1 remake video. I actually happen to have a section in there where I talk about modding and emulation. As a matter of fact, I'm making a sequel to it right now. Very soon we'll actually get RE2 versus its remake here on the channel. It's like an hour long. It's a really in-depth analysis. Just some food for thought. Ladies, gentlemen, and NBs, this was Raiden Noodles, your edgy Capcom friend, and I make fun Capcom videos. If you enjoyed this one, maybe consider helping out Chun-Li, fully clothed this time, with taking out the subscribe button. It's the weekend, my homies. Go get yourself a nice beer or some edibles, my friends. Peace.